When I first thought of environmental education, I just thought it would be 1 or 2 classes outside discussing the type of plants, then returning back to the curriculum inside.
My first initial thought when entering ESCI 302 was that it was going to be a class that involved learning about nature and how to teach it to children in a way that made it interactive and fun for the students. However, after the first class, I came to realize that it was nothing what I thought it was going to be.
After taking ESCI 302, Environmental Education, we have learned that it is much more than environmental science, but it is about learning to love and cherish the environment as educators so we can truly understand what we are teaching our future students. It is about learning that the earth loves us and we need to change our actions in order to disrupt consumerism for the betterment of the earth. As Ho would say, you wouldn't harm what gives you love.
We came to this understanding through some environmental educational philosophers, one being David Orr. He believes that all education is environmental education. He also attempted to disrupt our typical views of environmental education, such as learning about the environment within 4 walls. With that being said, another environmental philosopher named Robin Wall Kimmerer believes that the land is the real teacher.
Due to what these philosophers think, it inspired us to disrupt consumerism and climate change within our own lives. In order to accomplish this, we had to have an understanding of eco-literacy. At first, this was very frustrating because we weren't able to train our brains to unlearn the standard teachings within the classroom environment. We were told to just go with our gut feelings and discover the true meaning of embodying eco-literacy in our everyday actions, and working with our eco-literacy groups for 5 weeks. Although it seemed like we were getting nowhere with the definition at first, the more activities we did, the more we seemed to create a definition within ourselves subconsciously.
These activities caused us to rethink anthropocentrism and the fact that we are trying to save the planet, yet we think of ourselves as top of the chain. The activities we did in class, such as practicing stillness, caused us to realize that we are not above the ones who we believe don't have any rights. As Kimmerer states, what do you suppose would happen if people believed this crazy notion that the earth loved us back? With that being said, when first practicing stillness, we believed that it was a little silly and uncomfortable to have to lie in the snow when it was cold out and breathe with a tree. However, once Audrey pushed us out of our comfort zone and told us to try and notice what is around us in that exact moment, it was found that embodying eco-literacy involves experiences. When we were practicing stillness, we found that deep experience of nature creates deep feelings, leading to deep questions and a deep commitment for nature. This may result in a paradigm shift in one's way of viewing the world.
We found that a theme connecting our creative journal blogs to the class was vulnerability and expanding our ways of thinking. There were many blogs and class discussions prompting us to broaden our typical learning patterns. However, letting our brains lead our body and valuing the mind over body is a very Eurocentric way of thinking. And part of embodying eco-literacy is to discard these practices. In order to truly understand what embodying eco-literacy meant, we had to get out of our brains and move into our bodies. This involved watching the actions our bodies took and then proceeding to think about it as opposed to the other way around.
At first, embodying eco-literacy just meant recycling and turning the lights off. However, it became much more in-depth and added to our educational philosophies. Part of this practice included recording our actions in our blogs. Each of our creative visuals required a deep amount of thought about how we were going to disrupt and embody eco-literacy that week. For this reason, we do believe that our blogs have developed a diverse view on environmental education than we did before. Although, in the beginning of our creative journals, we struggled to understand what the correct answer might be. However, we discovered that environmental education has no right answer. Instead, it is how you interpret and understand the main idea of environmental education.
When analyzing our creative blog and braid, we noticed that we still have a few questions. One being, how are we able to use this knowledge and portray to our future students by embodying eco-literacy without striking fear and creating the impossible idea of saving the world on their own in a limited amount of time? As they can't control the consumerism and choices within their own homes. However, we established the idea that because we hope to work in the younger grades, we came up with the idea to do an embodiment activity together as a class in order to make some sort of change. This activity would include vermicomposting, as we have understood through our class that it is very interesting, easy, and beneficial, as well as it provides us with an opportunity to include interdisciplinary teachings. As Kimmer states, it is an intertwining of science, spirit, and story, old stories and new ones, that allow us to imagine a different relationship in which people and land are good medicine for each other.
Ho tells us that without unpacking the colonizing effects of the dominant culture, one does not have the necessary tools to pursue the kind of living that recovers social and ecological disruption of places. This quote demonstrates why it is important to think about the colonization and the dominant culture has skewed the way our education system is ran. We wouldn't compartmentalize our subjects as learning would happen as it naturally comes to us in our environment, regardless of grade and age. In fact, number and letter grades would not exist. There would be no right or wrong answer. It would be a collaboration of the indigenous ways of knowing and the Western ways of thinking to create a more diverse education system.
One might ask what this looks like. This may look like viewing our children as already having knowledge and teachers prompting this knowledge to grow. Schools may not exist at all, and if they did, it would be very unstructured in a structured way. By this we mean allowing students freedom to learn at their own pace and not separating the values of culture from subject matter. In conclusion, we have had learning crises and had to pause in the middle of things to reflect on our identities and how they are related to environmental education philosophies. To answer Kimmer's early question, about how the earth would look if we believed that the earth loved us, we think that it would involve regular people like us educating the future through personal actions that grow. It would be allowing your body to see and explore the changes happening around and within us. We have been able to use our love poem, braid, creative journal blogs, and class discussions to allow us to disrupt consumerism within our own lives and put into practice within our future classrooms. We seek to improve ourselves first and desire that others observe our actions and unlearn their own personal ideas. As Dr. Seuss said in the Lorax, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not.